There's a voice inside you, not the one filled with fear, doubts, or regrets. The other one, the powerful one, the one that knows you're meant for something greater. That voice doesn't whisper, it roars. And every day you choose whether to feed it or silence it. The words you speak to yourself are not just echoes in your mind. They shape your reality. They write your story. And if you want to live a life of strength, purpose, and peace, then you must intentionally tell yourself the right things every single day. These are the 10 truths, the 10 daily declarations that will anchor you when the world pulls you off course. Speak them like you mean them. Believe them like your life depends on them, because it does. Every day you wake up, you are given a choice to own your day or let the day own you. And that choice begins with one powerful truth. You are responsible for your life. This isn't just a nice sounding phrase. It's the foundation of transformation. Until you fully embrace this idea, you'll always be at the mercy of your circumstances, your past, or the people around you. Responsibility is not blame. It's not about fault. It's about ownership. It's the understanding that no matter what's happened to you, what matters most is how you respond. The moment you accept full responsibility is the moment you reclaim your power. There's something incredibly freeing about this. When you blame others, your parents, your partner, your boss, your childhood, your environment, you give them power over your story. You hand them the pen and allow them to write your narrative. But when you take responsibility, you take the pen back. You become the author, the architect, the leader of your life. You stop waiting for someone to fix you, save you, or validate you. You stop waiting for permission. You realize no one is coming. You're it. And that is not a burden. That's a blessing. Because it means you get to choose your next move. You get to choose how this story unfolds. This mindset isn't about being hard on yourself. It's not about self-blame or shame. It's about being radically honest. It's about saying, this is my life, and I will not be a passive character in it. When things go wrong, instead of defaulting to excuses, you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What could I have done differently? What will I do now? That shift in perspective is where growth begins. That's where maturity begins. That's where strength begins. Think about the most powerful people you admire, not the ones with titles or followers, but the ones who radiate true inner strength. They all share one thing. They take responsibility. They don't play the victim. They don't waste time complaining. They don't say, why me? They say, what now? They don't control everything, but they control their mindset, their discipline, their reaction, and their next step. That's where their power comes from. And you have that same power. Responsibility is also about owning your emotions. You may not control what triggers you, but you do control how long you stay triggered. You may not control what someone says, but you do control whether you allow it to affect your peace. You may not control the weather, the economy, or other people's behavior, but you always control your attitude, your effort, and your energy. That's your domain. That's your circle of influence. And living inside that circle is where peace lives. It's where confidence grows. Because when you stop trying to control what you can't and start mastering what you can, you gain momentum. You gain clarity. You move forward. Taking responsibility also means you stop waiting for motivation, waiting for clarity, waiting for someone to choose you, waiting for the right time. You stop waiting because you realize that waiting is just another form of avoidance. It's another excuse dressed up as patience. Life doesn't wait, and neither should you. When you take responsibility, you act. Even if you don't have it all figured out, even if it's messy, even if you're scared, you move because you trust yourself enough to figure it out along the way. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Responsibility requires you to face yourself, your patterns, your habits, your choices, but that discomfort is the price of freedom, and the payoff is worth it, because once you step into responsibility, you no longer live by default. You live by design. You no longer drift, you drive. You don't just react to life, you create it. Everything changes when you decide that your life is your responsibility. Your relationships change because you stop blaming others and start communicating better. Your career changes because you stop waiting for opportunities and start creating them. Your mindset changes because you stop seeing problems as dead ends and start seeing them as chances to level up. You stop fearing failure because you realize that every failure is a lesson in ownership. Every obstacle is a mirror reflecting where you need to grow. And every success, that's yours too. Not luck, not chance, not someone else's doing, yours. Because you showed up, you did the work, you took the risk. You didn't just wish, you decided. There's a moment in life where you have to look at yourself, really look and ask, am I enough? Not based on what others think, not based on achievements or appearances, but from a place deep within. And the truth is, most people go through life feeling like they're not, like they're always missing something, not smart enough, not good looking enough, not successful enough. It's like we're all secretly chasing this invisible finish line, thinking that once we cross it, we'll finally be worthy. But the chase never ends because the standard keeps shifting. That's why you must declare to yourself every single day, I am enough as I am. This is not about arrogance. It's not about pretending you're perfect or ignoring areas where you can grow. It's about grounding yourself in worth before you even begin. Because when you know you're enough, you stop tying your identity to performance. You stop basing your value on how productive you were today, how many likes you got, or how much someone else approves of you. You finally release yourself from the exhausting need to constantly prove something. You let go of the need to earn love, to earn rest, to earn peace. You begin to understand that you were already worthy before you did anything. Every time you look in the mirror and don't feel satisfied, it's not your body that needs fixing. It's the story you've been told. Every time you doubt yourself in a room full of people, it's not because you don't belong. It's because you've been taught to shrink. From the moment we're born, the world starts handing us scripts, who we should be, what we should do, how we should look. And before we know it, we're measuring ourselves with someone else's ruler. But what if you threw away the ruler altogether? What if you stopped grading yourself and started embracing yourself? When you begin telling yourself, I am enough, something powerful shifts. You stop settling. You stop begging for attention. You stop staying in spaces that diminish you just to feel accepted. You start making decisions from a place of confidence rather than desperation. You start walking away from things that don't align with your value, because when you believe you're enough, you also believe you deserve better. One of the most dangerous lies we're taught is that worth must be earned, that you need to achieve a certain title, look a certain way, hit a certain milestone, and then you'll be enough. But worth isn't something you achieve. It's something you recognize. It was already there. It was there before the world convinced you otherwise. It was there before the heartbreak, before the failure, before the mistakes. You don't lose it because of what happened to you. It's untouched, unshakable, and undeniable. The beauty of declaring that you are enough is that it creates a solid foundation for everything else. You stop viewing self-improvement as a desperate attempt to fix what's broken and start seeing it as a beautiful journey to become more of who you already are. Growth becomes an expression of love for yourself, not punishment. You read the books, go to the gym, learn new skills, not to fill a void, but to honor your potential. When you tell yourself, I am enough, you also learn to be present. You stop living in the illusion of someday when you're thinner, someday when you're richer, someday when you're loved. You start realizing that your life isn't on hold. This moment, right now, is just as valuable, just as sacred, just as full of possibility. And you are allowed to show up fully in it as you are. And of course, this isn't always easy. There will be days when doubt creeps in, days when old stories resurface, days when someone's comment cuts deep, or when comparison drags you down. That's why it's a daily practice. Not just a one-time affirmation, but a commitment. Every morning, every time the doubt returns, you come back to the truth. I am enough. You say it until you believe it. You believe it until you live it. And you live it until it becomes your unshakable reality, because that's the truth you were born with, and it's time you remembered. There's a trap that keeps millions of people stuck, frustrated, and paralyzed. The illusion of perfection. This idea that things must be flawless before they are worthy, that you must have all the answers before you begin, that your journey must be smooth and linear to be valid. But perfection is a moving target. No matter how close you get, it keeps shifting. And if you chase it, you'll never feel satisfied. That's why you must tell yourself every day, I choose progress over perfection, because progress is real. Progress is growth. Progress is movement. And movement is how transformation happens. Perfection sounds noble on the surface. It disguises itself as high standards, ambition, and excellence. But in reality, perfection is a silent thief. It steals your time, your creativity, your courage. It whispers that you're not ready yet, that you're not good enough yet, that if you just wait a little longer, prepare a little more, maybe then you'll be worthy of showing up. But all it really does is keep you stuck in delay, and dreams die in delay. Potential fades and hesitation. The world doesn't need your perfect version. It needs your real one. The one who starts, who learns, who evolves in public, who grows through action. Every expert was once a beginner who decided to show up anyway. Every great story started with a messy first chapter. The people you admire didn't get there by being perfect. They got there by moving forward again and again, even when things were uncertain. They failed, they adjusted, but they didn't wait for everything to be polished before taking the first step. They understood that perfection is a trap, but progress is a path. Choosing progress means being brave enough to be seen in the middle of the process. It means being okay with awkward beginnings, with imperfect work, with learning out loud. That takes courage, because perfectionism is comfortable. It gives you an excuse to stay hidden. But progress demands visibility. It demands vulnerability. And it's in that space where real growth happens. When you release the need to be flawless, you open yourself up to learn, to adapt, to get better. You give yourself permission to evolve. Progress is honest. It says, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm further than I was. That mindset keeps you moving. It turns setbacks into stepping stones. It turns criticism into feedback. It helps you shift your focus from outcome to effort. And that's where fulfillment lives. Because when you're obsessed with being perfect, nothing is ever enough. But when you're committed to progress, you find joy in the journey. You start celebrating the small wins, the tiny breakthroughs, the quiet victories. And those are the moments that build real momentum. The most powerful thing about choosing progress is that it builds confidence. Not the kind of confidence that comes from applause or validation, but the kind that comes from watching yourself grow. When you look back and realize how far you've come, even if it's not perfect, even if it's slow, that's when you realize what you're capable of. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from trusting yourself to figure things out as you go, from showing up day after day, imperfect but committed. Progress also requires patience. It asks you to stay the course even when the results aren't immediate, to trust the process even when it's frustrating, to keep going even when it feels like no one's watching. Because the truth is, most of the growth happens in the unseen, in the practice, in the repetition, in the discipline. Progress is not loud, It's not glamorous, but it's powerful. It's steady. It compounds. One small step today becomes momentum tomorrow, and that's how lasting change is made. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be better than you were yesterday. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to start. Because clarity comes through action. Growth comes through doing. The more you move, the more you learn, the more you try, the more you discover what works for you. The more you show up, the closer you get to who you were meant to become. Your mind is your most powerful tool, but if you don't take control of it, it will control you. And most people go through life never realizing that their thoughts are not facts. They are stories, interpretations, and sometimes flat out lies crafted by fear, insecurity, or the past. That's why you must remind yourself every day, I am not my thoughts. I control my mind. This truth separates the reactive from the empowered, the overwhelmed from the calm, the confused from the clear. Because once you understand that your mind is a servant, not a master, you begin to take your power back. The human mind generates thousands of thoughts a day. Some are positive, some are random, some are destructive. And unless you pause to observe them, you start believing every single one. You start identifying with them. A thought comes up, I'm not good enough. This'll never work. Everyone's ahead of me. Controlling your mind doesn't mean eliminating every negative thought. That's impossible. It means developing awareness. It means realizing you have a choice in how you respond. You can choose to engage with the thought, to challenge it, to replace it, or to let it pass like a cloud in the sky. You become the filter, the gatekeeper. And in doing so, you reclaim your peace. You stop letting your mind drag you into anxiety about the future or regret about the past. You return to the present, the only place where life is actually happening. Most of the suffering people experience is not from the actual events of life, but from their interpretation of those events. Two people can go through the same situation and have completely different emotional experiences. The difference isn't in the event. It's in the narrative they tell themselves. That's the power of the mind. And that's why you must train it. Just like the body, the mind needs discipline. It needs direction. It needs clarity. If you don't give your mind something to focus on, it will focus on fear. If you don't lead it, it will follow old patterns, old stories, old wounds. You train your mind by choosing what you feed it. What you listen to, what you watch, what you read, it all matters. Every input is programming your internal software. If you constantly consume negativity, comparison, or chaos, don't be surprised when your thoughts reflect the same. But if you feed your mind with truth, with hope, with knowledge, with empowering messages, over time, it rewires. It starts offering you new thoughts, better thoughts, and eventually those thoughts become new beliefs, those beliefs become new actions, and those actions create a new life. Another part of controlling your mind is choosing your focus, because whatever you focus on grows. If you focus on what's wrong, you'll find more of it. If you focus on what's right, you'll find that too. The brain is always searching for confirmation, always looking for evidence of what it believes. That's why you have to be intentional. Focus on gratitude. Focus on progress. Focus on solutions. Focus on what you want, not what you fear. Your focus determines your emotional state. Your emotional state determines your behavior, and your behavior determines your results. Taking control of your mind doesn't mean you'll never struggle again. It means you're no longer at the mercy of your thoughts. It taps you on the shoulder in the middle of your excuses and says, let's go. Purpose doesn't ask for your comfort, it asks for your commitment. And once you say yes to it, your life stops being about ease and starts being about meaning. Living with purpose means you'll have to show up when it's hard. It means doing the work even when the results aren't immediate. It means facing rejection, failure, discomfort, and choosing to keep going anyway. Because your why is stronger than your mood. Because your vision is more powerful than your circumstances. Because you understand that anything worth having comes with a price, and you're willing to pay it in sweat, in time, in focus. Most people want success until it requires sacrifice. They want the outcome, but resist the process. But purpose isn't handed to you. It's built through discipline, resilience, and a relentless refusal to quit. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you trade long-term fulfillment for short-term relief. You delay your dreams for the sake of temporary ease. You quiet your calling so you can avoid the discomfort of stretching. But what feels comfortable today can become your cage tomorrow, because comfort doesn't expand you, it contains you. It makes your world smaller. It keeps you living the same day over and over, hoping things will change without actually doing what it takes. But when you choose commitment, when you decide that your purpose is non-negotiable, you begin to unlock levels of strength you didn't even know you had. Being committed to your purpose also means being okay with being misunderstood, with standing alone, with making decisions that others won't agree with. Because you're not here to live someone else's version of your life. You're not here to shrink so others can feel comfortable. You're here to grow, to rise, to do something meaningful. And purpose often requires isolation before elevation. There will be seasons where it's just you, your vision, and your grind. No applause, no support, just commitment. And that's where your character is forged. That's where your future is shaped. There will always be reasons to quit. Always something that feels more urgent, more fun, more immediately rewarding. But those are distractions, not destiny. When you're committed, you learn to ignore the noise. You stop chasing validation and start building consistency. You stop looking for motivation and start leaning on discipline. You become the kind of person who shows up no matter what, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. Your identity becomes rooted in effort, not outcome, in integrity, not instant gratification. And that makes you unstoppable. Comfort asks for rest. Purpose asks for sacrifice. Comfort gives you peace today. Purpose gives you pride tomorrow. Comfort says, take the day off. Purpose says, just show up. And over time, those choices add up. They either move you forward or hold you back. One decision at a time, one step at a time. That's why it's not about being perfect. It's about being committed. Even when you slip, even when you fall, even when doubt creeps in, you remind yourself of why you started. You pick yourself up, you recommit. Because purpose isn't a feeling, it's a decision, one you make every day, especially when it's hard. In a world that constantly tries to define your worth by your results, your achievements, or your comparison to others, there is something incredibly powerful about choosing to define your worth by your effort. You must remind yourself daily, I am proud of how far I've come. Because if you don't acknowledge your progress, you'll always feel behind. You'll always feel like you're not enough. And the truth is, no matter where you are right now, you've already overcome things that once felt impossible. You've survived days you thought would break you. You've grown through seasons that tested your patience, your faith, and your strength. You've made it through situations that looked like dead ends. That alone is something to be proud of. Too often, we overlook our progress because it doesn't look dramatic or glamorous. We think success has to be loud and fast, but real growth is quiet. It happens in the moments no one sees, the early mornings, the hard conversations, the uncomfortable decisions, the nights you kept going when it would have been easier to quit. Growth isn't always about big wins. It's about consistent effort. It's about being 1% better than yesterday. And when you zoom out and look at your life from a wider lens, you realize you're not where you used to be. You've leveled up in ways that aren't always visible, but are deeply significant. Pride in your journey doesn't mean you're satisfied or stagnant. It means you recognize that your past struggles are the foundation of your current strength. It means you're honoring the process, not just the result. When you learn to take pride in how far you've come, you build inner stability. You stop needing constant external validation. You become your own source of motivation. You begin to understand that even on the days when progress feels slow, you're still moving forward. And that mindset keeps you grounded. There's a difference between being proud and being arrogant. Arrogance says, I've arrived and I'm better than others. Pride says, I've grown and I'm better than who I used to be. That's the kind of pride that fuels real confidence, the unshakable kind that comes from knowing how much work you've put in behind the scenes. Confidence, rooted in progress, is the kind that can't be taken away by failure or rejection, because you know you're not defined by one moment. You're defined by your resilience, your persistence, your ability to rise again. One of the biggest thieves of joy is comparison. It tricks you into thinking you're not doing enough simply because someone else is further ahead. But you're not on their path. You don't carry their past, their pain, or their purpose. You're on your own unique journey, and the only fair comparison is between who you are now and who you used to be. Celebrate your own milestones, no matter how small. That first video you published, that book you finished, that habit you didn't break, that time you said no instead of people-pleasing, all of it counts. All of it matters. All of it deserves acknowledgement. When you ignore your progress, you start chasing perfection. You get addicted to what's next, always moving the goalpost, never feeling like you've done enough. But when you learn to pause and reflect, when you make space to appreciate your own evolution, you create momentum from gratitude. And gratitude is a powerful force. It shifts your focus from what's lacking to what's growing. It reminds you that success isn't just about where you're going, it's also about who you're becoming. Taking pride in your journey also gives you the fuel to keep going, because there will be setbacks. There will be seasons where it feels like nothing is working. In those moments, your progress is your proof. Proof that you've already conquered hard things. Proof that you have the endurance to keep moving. Proof that your past victories can power your future breakthroughs. You don't need to be at the finish line to be proud. You just need to be on the track, giving it your all. Self-respect grows when you honor your own efforts. When you stop beating yourself up for not being perfect and start appreciating how far you've come, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing approval and start walking in purpose. You stop waiting to feel worthy and start showing up with the quiet power of someone who knows their value isn't tied to speed or perfection. It's tied to progress, to persistence, and to the courage it takes to keep moving forward. There will always be people who doubt you, misunderstand you, or try to box you into their own limited perception of who they think you should be. But you weren't created to live according to someone else's expectations. That's why every day you must remind yourself, I don't need anyone's permission to be great, because greatness is not something you wait for others to hand you. It's something you claim. It's a decision you make internally long before the world recognizes it. Most people live their lives waiting for a green light, for someone to validate their dreams, approve their path, or tell them they're allowed to rise. But if you keep waiting for permission, you'll be waiting your whole life. You don't need a title, a crowd, or a consensus to show up as your highest self. You just need the courage to trust what's already inside you. You weren't born to blend in or play small. But that's what happens when you constantly seek validation. You shrink yourself to fit into environments that were never meant to hold your potential. You silence your ideas because you're afraid they might not be accepted. You put your dreams on hold because you're worried about what others might think. But people's opinions don't pay your bills. They don't live with your regrets, and they won't be the ones walking in your shoes when the opportunities you never reached for slip away. At some point, you have to make peace with the fact that not everyone will understand your vision, and that's okay. Your vision was given to you, not them. Most people project their fears onto others. When they tell you that your dream is too big or unrealistic, they're really saying they can't imagine it for themselves. When they try to discourage you from taking risks, it's because they're too afraid to take their own. Their limitations aren't your responsibility. You are not obligated to shrink to make other people comfortable. You are not here to be palatable. You're here to be powerful. And power comes from authenticity. It comes from being who you are without apology or dilution. The truth is, nobody knows what you're capable of more than you. They haven't seen your late nights, your internal battles, your relentless hunger to grow. They don't know the fire that's been burning inside you for years, the ideas that won't leave you alone, the calling that keeps tugging at your heart. They haven't lived your life, so they don't get to define your limits. That's why your belief in yourself must be louder than their doubts. Your inner voice must be stronger than their noise. And your commitment to your purpose must be deeper than their criticism. When you stop needing permission, you start taking responsibility. You stop blaming circumstances and start building solutions. You stop waiting for signs and start creating momentum. You move with intention, not insecurity. You lead with boldness, not hesitation. Because you understand that the people who change the world aren't the ones who ask, "Is this okay?" They're the ones who say, "Watch me." They're the ones who move before the world catches on. They're the ones who turn rejection into redirection and setbacks into stepping stones. Greatness isn't about being perfect or always having the answers. It's about showing up with what you have and making it count. It's about being willing to look foolish for a while so you can become wise later. It's about being misunderstood now so you can be respected later. Most people won't recognize your greatness until it becomes undeniable. So stop waiting to be discovered and start discovering yourself. Start investing in your growth, your craft, your mindset. Start doing the work that aligns with your soul, even if no one claps for you yet. The applause will come, but only if you show up first. You don't need a seat at their table. You can build your own. You don't need to be chosen. You can choose yourself, because true greatness doesn't begin with external validation. It begins with internal permission. The moment you stop outsourcing your worth and start walking in your truth, you begin to tap into a level of power that can't be shaken by rejection, by doubt, or by delay. You begin to lead, not follow, create, not copy. And that's when everything starts to shift, because when you no longer wait to be told you're ready, you realize you already are. There's an undeniable strength in consistency, a quiet power that most people overlook because it isn't flashy, instant, or dramatic. But if you truly want to transform your life, you have to remind yourself daily, I keep showing up no matter how I feel, because feelings are fleeting and motivation is unreliable. Some days you'll wake up inspired, energized, and driven. Other days you'll feel tired, discouraged, or unmotivated, but progress doesn't wait for perfect conditions. The real breakthroughs happen on the days when you push through resistance, when you act despite the lack of inspiration, when you show up simply because you said you would. Most people lose not because they lack talent or intelligence, but because they stop showing up. They start strong, then fade away. They expect immediate results, and when they don't see them, they give up. But consistency beats intensity every time. It's not what you do once that changes your life. It's what you do daily. Every rep in the gym, every page written, every video recorded, every habit practiced in the dark builds a compound effect that eventually becomes impossible to ignore. But it only works if you stay in the game long enough to see the results. The secret is never missing twice. Even when you fall off, even when life throws you off course, you come back. You keep showing up. There's a certain pride in doing what needs to be done when no one is watching, when there's no praise, no recognition, no applause. That's the kind of self-respect that builds real confidence. The confidence of someone who knows they can rely on themselves. Because you've trained yourself to do the work regardless of how you feel. You've conditioned yourself to move forward even on the messy days. And that creates momentum. That builds trust in your own word. Every time you honor your commitment to yourself, you're reinforcing a powerful identity. Someone who follows through, someone who endures, someone who finishes. Waiting to feel right before taking action is a trap. Feelings lie, they change, they fluctuate based on how much sleep you got, what someone said to you, or what kind of stress you're dealing with. But your purpose doesn't change, your goals don't change. And if you let your feelings dictate your actions, you'll live in cycles of starting and stopping, of trying and quitting. But when you learn to detach from your emotions and anchor yourself in discipline, you rise above the noise. You stop asking yourself if you feel like it and start asking if it aligns with who you want to become. It's not about ignoring your emotions. It's about not letting them run the show. You feel the fear, the doubt, the fatigue, and you show up anyway. Because you've decided that your purpose matters more than your mood, that your dreams deserve more than just your good days, that your legacy isn't built in moments of excitement, but in moments of consistency. Every successful person you admire has mastered this principle. They didn't win because they were always motivated. They won because they kept showing up day after day, year after year, long after others got tired. Even when progress feels invisible, it's happening. Even when the numbers don't move, the foundation is being laid. Even when your effort seems unnoticed, your character is being built. Every small decision to keep going adds up. It's not sexy, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful. And over time, consistency will take you places talent never could, because talent without discipline fades. Motivation without routine crumbles. But a consistent person, no matter how average they may seem, will always outlast the inconsistent genius. Showing up is a superpower, especially when it's hard. You don't need to feel amazing every day. You just need to be committed to doing what needs to be done. That's how champions are built, not on the days when everything is perfect, but on the days when everything is hard and they still choose to show up. That's the kind of grit that separates dreamers from doers, wishers from warriors. It's what makes your habits stronger than your excuses, your actions louder than your emotions, and your vision bigger than your setbacks. And once you develop that kind of consistency, there's nothing you can't accomplish, because you'll no longer be controlled by fleeting emotions, but driven by unshakable commitment. The power of staying focused on your own journey cannot be overstated. There will always be distractions. The world is full of them, from the noise of other people's opinions to the endless stream of information that floods your mind. But you must constantly remind yourself, I don't need to compare my journey to anyone else's. Your path is uniquely yours. And when you start comparing your progress to someone else's, you lose sight of your own. You begin to measure yourself by standards that were never meant for you. You start questioning your worth and your pace, wondering why you're not where they are or why things aren't happening as quickly for you. And that only creates frustration and self-doubt. Everyone's timeline is different. Just because someone else seems to be ahead doesn't mean you're behind. The race is not against them. It's against the person you were yesterday. Comparison is the thief of joy. When you compare yourself to others, you automatically diminish your own value. You rob yourself of the opportunity to appreciate your own growth and progress. You take away the ability to celebrate your own victories because you're too focused on someone else's. But the truth is, you will never be able to run someone else's race because you don't have their experiences, their challenges, or their vision. What looks like success to someone else may not be fulfilling to you. What looks like failure to you may be part of someone else's success story. The aha moment you stop comparing is the moment you stop feeling like you're always behind. It's the moment you give yourself the space to truly embrace your own path. The danger of comparison is that it often leads to frustration. It makes you question your choices, your dreams, and your worth. When you're constantly measuring your life against someone else's, you don't see the uniqueness of your own journey. The lessons you learn, the obstacles you overcome, the experiences that shape you, those are all part of your personal story, and they hold value. But when you're too busy looking at other people's stories, you miss the beauty of your own. You miss the small, significant steps you're making, and you fail to appreciate the strength it takes to keep going in the face of adversity. If you want to make real progress, you must shift your mindset. Instead of focusing on what others are doing, focus on what you're doing. Set your own standards and measure your success by your own growth. Celebrate every milestone, no matter how small, because it's your progress. Your pace is not anyone else's to dictate. Whether you're taking small steps or giant leaps, as long as you're moving forward, you're on the right track. Don't let someone else's timeline make you feel like you're not doing enough. Your journey is enough. The key to staying focused is understanding that your success isn't dependent on how fast or how spectacularly others succeed. Success isn't a competition, it's a personal evolution. The more you focus on what you can control, your effort, your mindset, your attitude, the more you'll realize that you don't need to compare. Every step forward is progress, and that's what matters. Your path is just as valid as anyone else's, and your destination is your own to define. Whether your journey takes a few years or many, the important thing is that you're moving forward, staying true to your vision, and not allowing the success of others to overshadow your own. Comparison can also lead to burnout. When you focus on others, you start pushing yourself too hard, trying to keep up with a pace that isn't sustainable for you. You chase achievements that aren't aligned with your values or your goals, and eventually you become exhausted. But when you stop comparing, you allow yourself to breathe. You give yourself permission to grow at your own rate, to be imperfect, to learn, and to make mistakes without the pressure of living up to someone else's idea of success. Your journey is not meant to be rushed. It's meant to be lived, to be savored, to be experienced in its own time. Remember, your worth is not determined by where others are in life. It's determined by how much you're willing to grow, evolve, and pursue your own potential. When you embrace your own path, free from comparison, you unlock the ability to experience your journey fully. You give yourself permission to be proud of your progress, to honor your challenges, and to acknowledge the unique way you are unfolding into the person you are meant to become. By staying focused on your own growth, you allow your story to unfold in the most authentic and fulfilling way possible. There's something incredibly powerful about choosing to believe in your own potential, no matter what your past might suggest. It's easy to let your history define your future, especially if your past is filled with failures, setbacks, or unfulfilled dreams. But you must remind yourself every day, I am capable of more than I've already done. Your past does not limit your future. The mistakes you made, the opportunities you missed, or the goals you didn't achieve, they don't define who you are or what you can accomplish. Your future is not tied to your past, and you are never bound by the limitations you once faced. Your potential is limitless, and every day is a new opportunity to tap into it. The most significant thing you can do is stop seeing your past as a barrier. The things that went wrong, the times you stumbled, the goals that slipped through your fingers, those are not indicators of your worth. They are lessons. They are building blocks for who you are becoming. Each setback carries with it the seed of growth. Each failure contains the lesson that will fuel your success. The key is to stop carrying the weight of your past as if it's a chain keeping you stuck in place. You are not the same person you were when those things happened. You've learned, you've grown, and you've evolved. And that version of you is more than capable of stepping into a future that's bigger than anything you've previously imagined. Often, people are so focused on what they haven't achieved yet that they fail to recognize the power of starting anew. You don't need to wait for a perfect time or a perfect moment to make a change. Every new day brings the chance for a fresh start, a clean slate. You are always one decision away from a completely different life. That decision might seem small, but the effects are far-reaching. It's a decision to believe in your potential, to take the next step, to not let your past mistakes determine what's possible for your future. When you choose to believe in yourself, you give yourself the permission to grow beyond where you've been. One of the biggest traps we fall into is thinking that our worth is determined by what we've already accomplished. But real potential isn't about what you've done in the past. It's about what you're willing to do moving forward. Your past may contain moments of brilliance, but it also contains moments of struggle. And the beauty of life is that no single moment or season defines who you are. You are a collection of all your experiences, and every new experience can lead to something bigger and better if you approach it with the mindset that you are capable of more than you've already done. There is always room for growth, always room to learn, and always room to rise to new heights. Too many people give up on themselves too early. They look at where they are and assume they'll never reach the heights they've dreamed of. But success is not about the start you had. It's about the consistency and effort you put in. It's about the resilience to continue when things get hard and the courage to keep pushing forward even when you don't have all the answers. Your potential is not defined by your current circumstances. It is shaped by your decisions, your willingness to learn, and your ability to persist. You are capable of turning your dreams into reality, not because you have a perfect past, but because you have the power to create a better future with every step you take. Sometimes the biggest hurdle is believing in your own potential when it feels like the odds are stacked against you. But the truth is, the odds are never really stacked against you. They are simply a reflection of the current situation, not the outcome. And the situation is always changing. The work you put in today will shape the opportunities of tomorrow. The belief you cultivate today will fuel the actions that bring you closer to your goals. You are capable of more than you think, and it is often in the moments of doubt that your most significant breakthroughs are waiting to happen. When you believe that you are capable of more than you've already done, you stop settling for the life that feels safe or familiar. You begin to take risks, make bold decisions, and step outside your comfort zone. You understand that growth doesn't come from staying in the same place, from playing it safe. It comes from stretching yourself, from pursuing new challenges, and from believing that you have what it takes to overcome them. The potential within you is not limited to your current circumstances. It exists in every action you take, every mindset shift you make, and every belief you cultivate. When you truly believe in your own potential, you start making choices that reflect the person you are becoming, not just the person you've been. Your potential is not a one-time thing. It is a lifelong journey. It grows with you, expands with every experience, and deepens with every challenge. The key is to keep believing in it, to keep moving forward, and to never settle for less than you know you're capable of.